Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you folks are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great week out there so far. Well, today is day one of what's going to be an incredibly active stretch of weather over the next 4 days with severe weather. So we're going to focus in a lot on today's threat of significant severe weather. We're going to get very detailed on it, and then after we do that, we will discuss the rest of the lower 48 as far as what's going to happen weather-wise for today, because there is a couple features ongoing that's going to affect your weather, even if you live outside of the area that's going to see the impacts for the severe weather for today into tonight. So we'll talk about that. After we do that, we will get a little bit into our Friday. We'll get pretty detailed on that too. And listen, they've increased the tornado risk. We thought that would happen when we discussed this in yesterday evening's video, and that's exactly what happened across Iowa, Missouri, even sections of Nebraska, even like northeastern Kansas. You guys do have more of a higher chance of tornadoes now. So we need to really figure that one out. And this is for tomorrow. I'm not speaking for today into tonight. This is for tomorrow's risk. So today and tomorrow's severe weather risk is driven off the same system. Saturday and Sundays is kind of similar, but driven off a totally different system. And Saturday has the potential to be the worst day out of all these next 4 days, including today. But we need to figure out what's out in front of us. The details get a little bit more fuzzy once we get into Saturday and Sunday, but we know a lot of detailed information about what's in front of us, which is today and then for tomorrow for our Friday. So guys, I will reiterate this probably a few times in the video. Take advantage of those timestamps. My videos tend to be very long because I get very detailed. So if you're a new viewer, definitely jump ahead. Take advantage of those timestamps. There'll be a bunch of minutes just for you to kind of jump to certain sections of the video that you're mainly interested in. Don't blame you one bit. Take advantage of those. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. I like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. If you got storm anxiety, a lot of people have that. I've learned that with my YouTube journey. Definitely put that in there or anything, and we'll certainly pray over it on this channel. So let's get rocking and rolling. So we're going to start off by looking at the water vapor loop. We don't do this often anymore, but I think this is a good time to do it as ever. And as you can tell, there's something diving down here in the southwestern U.S. You can see this dip right into here. That is our kind of our shortwave trough, if you will, or piece of energy that's going to drive this severe weather risk for Thursday, today, into our Friday. Now, if you look closely, this thing is kind of tilting. It's kind of on its way to going what we call negatively tilted, which eventually it'll get a tilt kind of like this, okay? And then a surface low is going to develop somewhere into here, and then this is going to pose the risk of all hazards across the dry line across the central and southern plains. Now, this is already sparking, moisture across the Rockies, even some moisture right in here. You see these areas of wider colors right here on your screen. That indicates more moisture in the atmosphere. Kind of the duller colors, the grayer colors, almost black, that's more drier air in the atmosphere. You probably don't have any moisture ongoing with that. But more importantly, if you look at this right here, you see this flow coming out the southwest, which is down here. You see this flow going like this. That is the flow we talk about, bringing in that rich, moist air. And then eventually that mid-level jet and eventually the low-level jet associated with the surface low that does develop here in Colorado and surrounding states and then moves eastward in general. So this is what's going on in water vapor loop. You can see the system right here trying to pivot, become negatively tilted, therefore a strengthening storm system. So I like to always show that when it does show the feature on the map very well. And here it is. Remember I kind of circled that area more wider colors right in here. This is in the form of some showers and storms. In fact, we have a severe warned storm here in northern Kansas right now, and a lot of heavy rain, shower and storm activity across Missouri, eastern Kansas, areas of Arkansas, and things like that. We do have a system entering the Pacific Northwest, bringing rain for areas for you guys, especially the typical areas of like western Washington State and western Oregon. We got some scattered moisture across the Rockies because of this area of lower pressure I circled down here. And, the eastern U.S., pretty quiet. Got a little rain, around the Maryland area, Delmarva region. Outside of that, that's pretty much it for what's going on right now. Things are going to get much more active later on potentially. So we look at watches, warnings, and advisories. Freeze warnings ongoing for pretty chilly temperatures right now, even across areas of southern New England and the purple. Frost advisories here in the light blue. And then if you look down here, there are red flag warnings up. This happens a lot when you have a trough ejection. Surface low that develops. And if you look back right here, you see this flow right here. Well, dry air is going to move in. You see how you got more whiter colors right in here, more moist air, and they're more dulled out colors here. That's more dry air. This is going to move in, increase those winds, and really dry you out even more than what you already are, and you're going to have that fire danger. Red flag warnings, the fire risk is definitely elevated. I'm not sure if it's critical stages. I apologize for not knowing that. I don't have the map up right now, but I remember seeing the National Weather Service post something about it. There is a fire danger in this area. High winds or some high wind warnings right into here. So winter storm warnings up for the southern Rockies of Montana. So be mindful of that. Central area of the country, nothing highlighted right now, but I think as we wake up tomorrow morning, that's going to change pretty dramatically. Southern tier of the country, pretty quiet. Nothing really going on. Excessive rainfall outlook. Guys, there is a shot at flooding today across areas of southern Nebraska, Kansas, and it's going to be, there's already rain falling in this area right now. This will continue to become a little bit more juiced up throughout the morning hours, and we'll show you what that looks like per the HRRR model in NAM here in a second. But, you got the slight risk, which means at least a 15% shot at rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles on any given location. This extends all the way into northern Arkansas, northeastern Oklahoma. So, don't ignore the flooding risk today either, guys. That's there. And a lot of these areas, I think I have a viewer from Wichita who mentions it in, my comments a lot. Don't blame me. I've been frustrated about lack of rain too. You're going to have your shot at rain today for sure. But here we go. So we're going to jump right into the discussion with severe weather threat for today. So this is the broad look from the Storm Prediction Center. This is as of right now around 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Central Time. They'll do another update in about an hour and a half. Do they upgrade this to a moderate risk? I don't think so. I think if there was more confidence and more widespread storm development, they would. I think it's going to stay an enhanced risk. I do. Some things might tweak with this, but as of now, I think this stays an enhanced risk. But enhanced risk right here, and we're going to zoom into this from Kansas all the way through western Oklahoma, northern sections of Texas, including areas of the Panhandle. Slight risk all the way from deep down here in Texas all the way up to northeast Colorado, southern sections of Nebraska. And then you got the marginal risk that kind of goes all the way up here into areas of the northern plains, okay? So that's a broad look at it. Let's just go on and zoom into this. So let's take a look at Kansas first, okay? And I'm sorry to leave you folks out in like Nebraska, northeast sections of Colorado, but let's zoom into the most highly impacted areas, most likely there will be later on this evening. But if you do live here in southern Nebraska, large hail threats, smaller tornado risk, and also up here in northeast Colorado. But speaking of Kansas, there you go. Got some town names, city names on the map here. Dodge City, Hayes, Great Bend, Liberal, Garden City, up to Colby Hill City. You guys, enhanced risk of severe weather. What is this driven off of? Slight risk all the way over to Hutchinson, Wichita, and then, it drops off once you start to get into eastern sections of Kansas. But you could get some nasty weather overnight in these areas. So what is this driven off of? Tornado outlook, 10% chance of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location in the yellow. In the brown, 5%, and the green, 2%. So if you notice also, you got the black outline region with the black dashes going in between it. What's interesting is there's actually a hatched risk in the brown area. That's not common at all. That's actually pretty rare from the Storm Prediction Center. So it tells you, a low chance of anything getting going down here, I would say. But if it does, all hazard risk on the table. But in that, the black outline region, there also means there's a 10% shot, not added on to the other 10% to make 20, 10% shot of a strong tornado, okay, within 25 miles in a given location. That's an EF2 or higher. All right, a little bit closer look at the wind outlook. Nothing too crazy with this, just a 15% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour in this entire region right here. And we're just zooming in on Kansas, really. But the hail outlook, guys, just as dangerous as tornado outlook, okay? I learned that firsthand living in South Carolina with the nasty hailstorm we got here locally up here in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and the damage it did was just devastating, honestly, for certain areas. It caused a lot of damage. So take this hail threat serious. Of course, you guys know all about very large hail out here in the plains, but a closer look at the hail outlook. In the yellow, that's a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then in the red, that's a 30% chance of that. Now you see the black outline region, that's also a 10% shot at significant hail, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger. So Yeah, guys, large hail is a big threat today. Now let's zoom out and let's look at our friends here in Oklahoma. All right, enhanced risk, as you can see right in here. Okay, but let's zoom in on that tornado outlook. I know it doesn't show many towns and cities. Guyman, 5% risk of a tornado. Woodward, 10% shot of a significant tornado. Okay, Oklahoma City, 5% risk today. I think your threat will be higher once you get into Saturday, which we'll talk a little bit about here in a second. But Elk City down here and including areas of Texas. So tornado outlook, there it is. You got a shot at a significant tornado today. Wind outlook, not going to click on that, but you got that 15% shot in this entire region right here. Hopefully you can see it pretty good on your screen, of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. There's the hail outlook for Oklahoma. 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then in the the yellow, 15% risk of that. And then in the entire dry line, points east, okay, you got a 10% shot of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. And that does include Guyman. And listen, I'll be the first to say, I'm not going to be the first to say, but I'll say this. Many will probably. Some of these areas might not get a drop of rain. Might not even barely get a cloud in the sky. It's just your classic dry line setup. And then we head on down here to Texas. And there might be a better outlook region for Texas. But now let's just keep it at that so we don't waste too much time searching. But there's the outlook for Texas. There it is, slight risk extending all the way, to areas kind of southwest of San Angelo. Okay, y'all might not get a drop of rain, but you could. All right, so, there's the risk of tornadoes, tornado outlook. Childers, you got that 10% risk of a strong tornado. 5% risk of a tornado extends all the way to Wichita, Abilene, San Angelo, Midland, right on the fringe of 2 to 5% chance. And then the hail outlook. Listen, I've said this already about 5 times. There's a shot you might not even get a storm. But models are really liking the idea of something getting going right in this region right here, kind of between Childress, Abilene, and Lubbock. This area has already been impacted by some storms over the last couple of days. Like I said, the red, 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, and then the yellow, 15% of that, and then in the black outline region, that 10% chance of seeing significant hail. So that's a mouthful, but I like to zoom in. I like to get very detailed for you guys to get you guys a good idea. So let's talk about Oklahoma and Texas first. And my folks in Kansas and Nebraska will have you a separate timestamp up for you guys. So I want to mention you're about to see a good example of this. Might not get a drop of rain. All right, this morning, not a whole lot going on. You're going to have some convection, some storms ongoing in northeast Oklahoma. Not a huge deal. Maybe could produce some large hail, which is a big deal, but a tornado threat, I don't think there'll be a huge deal today. Okay, we start to get, this is the time frame. Look, back this up 1 hour and we're in Central Time because this is in Eastern. I can't change that. 5 p.m., not a whole lot going on. Got some big storms down there in northern Mexico, but we're not going to talk too much about Mexico here. Then bang, storms fire. But look what time it is. It's 11 p.m. and these storms are just now getting going along this dry line. Lubbock, south of Lubbock, the HRRR model says, hey, some storms are going to form right here. They'll quickly get going as the low-level jet really starts to grow and expand and strengthen in this area. This will kind of drive these storms, right? And listen, these storms could blast through Childress, just after midnight. If you live in this section right here in northern Texas, they could impact you guys. The models have really liked the idea of this over the last 24 to 36 hours. They like storms being in this area after midnight tonight. And these storms could produce damaging winds. I know that's kind of the lower risk thing for today's severe weather event, but don't ignore it. Cannot ignore it. This is 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. These storms are blasting through Oklahoma City. There is some model guidance to show these storms all the way down here to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're still going all the way until about daybreak tomorrow, all the way through Tulsa. These storms could be packing a punch as they move kind of out of Texas into southern central Oklahoma, eventually into northeast Oklahoma. And then we get into Friday. So be aware of this complex of storms, but also be aware if you're up here too in the panhandle of Oklahoma, you might not get anything. Models might be wrong, and you get an explosive thunderstorm capable of producing all hazards. And, you look at the NAM, it's the same deal, guys. It doesn't really show much, but it does show those storms forming around midnight here in western Texas and then quickly growing upscale. And the NAM is different down here. It shows some storms firing off around San Angelo, deep down here in Texas. So, the HRRR model doesn't show that. So it shows this complex of storms down here. This is around 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then it shows these storms, the same storms that the HRRR model shows here along the Red River, points north and south. So, and it does show a line of storms sweeping through the Dallas-Fort Worth area for tomorrow morning. So, all I can really say here is the significant tornado parameter, the ingredients for tornadoes, as we are getting into this evening, will explode and be there. But are you going to have enough lift in the atmosphere to really get these storms going along the dry line? And I really think it takes what we call the Pacific front to really sweep across the Rockies to really fire up these storms. And by then, it'll be kind of an unfavorable time of the day. And I think that you lose some of the ingredients. But if any storm can fire here just east of Amarillo into the eastern panhandle of Texas and the panhandle of Oklahoma, all hazards. That's why you have that 10% risk of a strong tornado in this area. You see the significant tornado parameter is high up here. It's high down here too. So, just because you have those maxed out parameters, that does not mean you're going to get a tornado. You actually need a storm to form and to really take advantage of the atmospheric players out there. So we move a little bit further north, and we cover Kansas and southern Nebraska here. So we're going to deal with this morning convection, morning storm activity that's going to cross out Nebraska, move into eastern Kansas, affect areas of Missouri. There could be some strong to severe storms here in eastern Kansas this afternoon. And then all focus goes out here. And watch what happens. Basically out of nowhere, as a surface low gets cranking here in Colorado, storms could fire up maybe around Goodland. But you got to watch where the dry line is, which you can't see on this map. Where's the dry line? You're going to have this slither of moisture that's getting pulled kind of up into here because of this surface low. So, the dry line goes from being more vertical to more kind of diagonal, if that makes any sense, up here. So you keep these going and these storms explode. The highest confidence for storm development is right along the dividing line between very favorable thermodynamics and not as favorable, meaning the thermodynamics, meaning your better low-level moisture, your better CAPE levels, etc., lapse rates, and all those good things, okay, or bad things in this case. But nasty storms form right up here. They really like northwestern and northern Kansas. But do they outrun the favorable ingredients for tornadoes? And I think they quickly do, but I do think there'll be a few hour period up here where if you live up here in Kansas, I'm telling you, models are zoning into this area. Please be mindful of tornadoes, very large hail, damaging winds, obviously. But as you can tell, nothing really forms down here near Dodge City. These areas down here near Woodward, Oklahoma. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm saying the models don't like the idea of it happening. But man, the HRRR model, within a 2-hour period goes from nothing to destructive storms out here, dangerous storms. And then they, head on off into Nebraska and become more elevated most likely, but still have the opportunity to produce some damaging winds, even a low tornado risk and very large hail. But as you start to get into about midnight, they start cruising into Nebraska. Like I said, you can't ignore tornadoes, but I do think that drops off as this outruns the environment. And then the low-level jet really ramps up, and then we start to get the storms firing off here on like Hutchinson and these areas here a little bit further east in Kansas, where plenty of lift enters the picture for thunderstorm development. And then we could get some nasty weather even into Kansas City as we're waking up tomorrow morning. So, of course, the updraft velocity swath, which indicates rotation with this particular run of the HRRR model, it loves these clusters of storms right into here. Okay, it shows it spinning. A lot of rotation with these storms and a strong signal for rotating thunderstorms, which are supercells, right in this area. It doesn't show anything down here because it doesn't show any storms getting going. You can't ignore the storms that form later tonight, but I do think they won't be as big of a factor with tornadoes. And guys, I want to show you those storms. Remember, and I'll show you one more model run right here. It's called the RRFS model. And it also likes the idea. There's that surface low right into here. It also likes the idea of these storms forming in western Kansas, and shows it a little bit further south in western Kansas, though. This is 23Z. This is around 6, 7, 8 p.m. this evening. And I do think once they get deeper into like Nebraska, they lose that tornado risk. But like I said, I don't want you to think I'm saying you're safe from tornadoes in southern Nebraska. I just think that the favorable ingredients really cuts off dramatically here in northwest Kansas, but does show that cluster of storms also. Last thing we'll look at with this is what I've been kind of talking to you about over the last 5 minutes. As we're getting into this afternoon, we're starting to get into this evening. You notice dew points in the 60s, your higher Cape levels associated with that are certainly there. Dry line right in here separating bone dry desert air with very moist, almost Gulf of Mexico type air. But if you notice, it fires up those storms right in here, right, on the H-R model. H-R model doesn't do the best with dew points, but it fires up those storms right along the competing boundary between dew points in the 50s and 60s. So it tells me that, one, I think this is wrong. I think you'll have dew points in the 60s all the way into the southern counties, southwestern counties in Nebraska. But, if this is correct, these storms that form maybe way up here in Kansas could be more elevated. They're not going to be like surface storms, meaning really big tornado producers. But listen, I think that this low-level moisture will be tucked in more to the surface low, which will be right into here. And I think you need to watch these storms in Kansas this evening. I really do. So that's the breakdown of that. We move a little bit further north into the northern plains. I don't want to ignore my friends here in the rest of, the Dakotas and, western Nebraska, northeast Colorado. You guys have the shot at some nasty storms. These could produce some large hail up here in South Dakota, western Nebraska, even some snow up into the Rockies. And you see these storms forming along the surface low here in northeast Colorado. These could produce some gusty winds, large hail tonight, and then all the way into Saturday morning, you see this cluster of energy right here that could be producing some heavy rain, some gusty winds, some hail. So I don't want to ignore that too. So there's that. All right, so let's take a breather as we cruise through the rest of the country. The southeast today, quiet weather, not a whole lot to speak on. A nice day. It's starting to warm up gradually as the ridge starts to move in. There's that area of rain here that starts to move across the southern half of Missouri. This affects the Boot Hill, Missouri, kind of cruises over the Mississippi River. And we start to get maybe some rain showers into western Kentucky, western Tennessee overnight. And might, wake up to a damp environment in Nashville tomorrow morning. And then these rain showers will try to survive all the way to the southern apps here. But overall, pretty nice day in the southeast. Northeast, kind of the same deal. Nice day expected, starting to warm up somewhat. It might be, you might have another chill day. In fact, I might be speaking too soon here. It's going to be another chilly day here in the Northeast, but you're going to warm up pretty quickly over the next couple of days. But as far as weather, nothing. I mean, there's nothing going on today. There really isn't. The South Central U.S., we've already spoke on this, but I'll take a more broad look at it. And just want to mention that rain that will cruise across Missouri. This will bring some showers, for you guys in like northern Arkansas later today. And there's those complex of storms developing in western Texas, sweeping across Oklahoma tonight. There's that surface low right here. And you're probably going to be dealing with some showers and storms in eastern Oklahoma, all the way up the Kansas-Missouri line. And definitely some storms ongoing with that, setting up another day of significant severe weather potential for your Friday. There will be a lot of rain. A lot of this is going to fall this morning. So, a lot of these areas have not seen a whole lot of rain lately. Northeast, especially like areas of Kansas, but this entire region right here with Missouri and Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kansas almost meet here. 1 to 3 inches of rain is possible with this. So a lot of rain with this area over the next 24 to 36 hours in this case. North Central U.S., pretty quiet. I mean, we've kind of mentioned that energy down there already. There's those supercells that are going to get going later tonight, capable of producing some, strong tornadoes. And, we keep this going. We get into the evening. There's some heavy rain in the central Dakotas. And then as we're starting to get into the wee hours of the morning, look at all this rain entering southern sections of Minnesota, almost all of Iowa. And by the time we're waking up for a Friday morning, waking up to a lot of rain in Iowa, some storms, Missouri, more solid shoulder rain, lacking really any convective element to it. So just more so rain moving into Minneapolis. But eventually all this will clear out, setting the stage for a significant severe weather risk, especially in the state of Iowa. So the western U.S., I will take kind of 2 vantage points here. I do want to mention this energy moving into eastern Oregon. I got to stop saying Eastern. Western Oregon, Western Washington State throughout the morning this afternoon. It's going to be damp along the valley, the higher elevations. This is not a very cold system. So, I mean, you got to get way up there in elevation for this to fall as snow. And, you know, so you're just going to be dealing with scattered rains over the next 24 hours, even into our Friday. And rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, you know, obviously the higher elevations of the Olympic Mountains, the coastal range, and the Cascades going to squeeze out more moisture. But even the valleys, even over a half an inch of rain is possible between both. So the Rockies, because you got lower pressure overhead, this is going to cause unsettled weather. I mean, anywhere from Nevada, northern Utah, scattered showers, and even snow showers in higher elevations of Wyoming. There's where you got that winter storm warning up for the southern higher peaks of Montana. You're going to get some snow in these regions. And, I mean, even some showers possible in northern Arizona, northern New Mexico, and even some showers getting going in southern Utah eventually. And then we're starting to get into the overnight hours, and then we'll deal with another active period, especially as we're getting into later tonight in Nevada. A little bit more cold air works in with this. So some higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain, Nevada, Idaho. So definitely some active weather oncoming for the western U.S. Southwestern U.S., though, staying pretty quiet. Temperatures today, you know, I said the Northeast is cool, but, I mean, you're not too bad, but, you know, it's still pretty chilly out here. You know, still in the 40s in Boston because of that flow off the ocean, very cold ocean temperatures still here in April. But then you cruise south, temperatures just gradually warm on up to the 70s and 80s in the southeast. See the pocket of cooler air here in the middle of the country. That's where rain and cloud cover will be from this morning. But if you're outside of this, you know, huge broad area of rainy, cooly, cloudy conditions, temperatures will have an opportunity to warm into the 60s and 70s all the way up into the Dakotas, the upper Midwest, a little bit chillier in the Ohio Valley. And, of course, surface temperatures will skyrocket along this dry line into the 80s, even low 90s here in the southern high plains. And, you know, temperatures are not that bad out west either, but definitely cooler than what we have seen for sure. So nice day up in here in Montana, eastern Wyoming, 70s, 60s. We'll get into some 80s here in the Dakotas. So, woo, running out of gas, but we're going to keep this going here. Friday, remember, and you know, guys, I don't blow smoke up my rear end. I don't do that. But remember last night, if you tuned in from yesterday evening's video, we talked about how we thought there would be an enhanced risk issued here in southwestern or just areas of Iowa, maybe Missouri. This is actually extended a little bit into Kansas than what I thought they would show. But, you know, so that tells you that I wasn't, you know, completely right with that. But you do have the level 3 out of 5 risk. And, guys, I do think we're going to get tornadoes in this area tomorrow. You know, Iowa tends to produce, but outside of all that hoopla, we know that things are going to come together for this. So level 3 out of 5 risk, slight risk, all the way up from almost the Minnesota-Iowa line, all the way down to Dallas, almost including Shreveport. You know, Little Rock right on the fringe of the slight and marginal risk, which is in the dark green. So this does include Tulsa, eastern sections of Kansas. Tornado risk. Here it is. 10% risk of a tornado in the yellow. Not quite including Des Moines. It does include Omaha, down to Kansas City. So, you know, if you live in this area, 10% risk of a tornado, 10% risk of a strong tornado, EF2 or higher. Damaging winds, just a huge area for a 15% shot at winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. Hail threat, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then, you know, the enhanced risk is being driven off this hail threat too. 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, with a hatch risk is just kind of in between the yellow area, or kind of embedded into it, if you will. Includes all the red area, includes a good chunk of the yellow area. That means, of course, 10% chance of hail exceeding 2 inches in diameter or larger, guys. So this is a big deal. And, you know, just a closer look at this. If you live in this orange area, I'll just mention this. If you live in this orange area, you got the shot of the strong tornadoes and the very large hail. This includes Omaha, St. Joseph, Kansas City, Topeka, Kansas. Yeah, I mean, Lincoln right on the fringe. You know, Des Moines, Ames, you're in a slight risk, but Sioux Falls is slight risk. So, listen, this is going to be the surface low kind of energy tomorrow. And, you know, we look at the H-R model in Iowa specifically, and surrounding states, certain sections of each state, even covering like northern Missouri. A lot of morning convection, storms tomorrow morning. The atmosphere will rapidly clear out tomorrow, kind of like what we saw with the event last week. I think it was last Tuesday. Atmosphere will rapidly clear out. We'll get into about lunchtime. And then as we start to get to about 4 to 5 p.m., storms explode. right up to the surface low. They'll be heading off to the northwest over here. And these storms right here, as soon as they get going, guys, and we don't know the exact evolution of this, but we know these storms will be here probably in western and southwestern Iowa. I mean, look, Omaha right into here. Storms will be tornado producers. Very large hail, just semi-discrete supercells along a tail-whipping line that leads up to the surface low. And they will sweep across, probably outrun their environment as they get deeper into Iowa. But these storms have the opportunity to be here a little bit further south into Kansas. And then they could extend a little bit further south into northern Missouri. But I'm telling you guys, these storms will have an opportunity to produce. I mean, we get into like 10, 11 p.m. tomorrow evening. Look at this huge storm down here at the southern flank of this line in northern Missouri. I'm telling you, I think this will be a higher chance of seeing scattered tornadoes than tonight will. I think we're going to have a shot at some 1 or 2 or even 3 very strong storms tonight in Kansas and surrounding states. But I think that you're going to have a better opportunity for tornadoes in this area. So once again, if you live in Iowa, you guys have been very active over the last couple of years, and even this year. These storms are coming tomorrow. Going to deal with a lot of rain tomorrow morning, and then here comes the storms tomorrow afternoon sweeping through. Okay, and we'll kind of do the timeline of this. This is 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. So, yeah. And if you look at the updraft Felicity swath with this, give me 1 second. We'll pull it up. There it is. It really highlights that line, especially the southern flank of it. The northern flank of it, not so much because it outruns its environment. But down here where you have better overlapping conditions, you're going to have some rotation with these storms, no doubt, and some tornadoes for sure. We dive a little bit further south. I don't want to ignore my folks a little bit into Arkansas, Missouri, and surrounding states. You're going to be dealing with some storms tomorrow morning. And then you could just be dealing with it all afternoon. There's a chance they might not even stop going. But as we get into tomorrow afternoon, there's those storms kind of in southern Missouri, central Arkansas. They'll be packing a punch. We could get some more storms that fire up. Like, for example, here's a nasty storm north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area around 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. Can't ignore those. Some more storms could get going, like in eastern Oklahoma. For example, it's around 9 p.m. See these areas of like pink right here? A little bit more cold air, dry air aloft, kind of closer to these storms. These will have the capability of producing some very large hail tomorrow evening, and I do think they'll kind of lose some steam as you get deeper into the night. So that's tomorrow's risk. Of course, we're going to get more detailed on that here in the coming videos. But here we go. This is day 3. I think this is for Saturday. I think this is going to be the big day. We'll see. But I want to note, guys, the slight risk, level 2, extends all the way to the Mexico-U.S. line, almost all the way up here to Canada, the Great Lakes region. So Green Bay, Milwaukee, Chicago, you might as well say, Peoria, Jefferson, Springfield, Des Moines, Omaha, Dallas, Abilene. All y'all are including the level 2 out of 5 risk, slight risk. But the enhanced risk right here, Kansas City, Wichita, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Wichita Falls. This could extend a little bit further south. Level 3 out of 5 risk. What is this driven off of? Remember, it's day 3, so all we know is there's a 30% chance of severe weather within 30% chance of severe weather within 25 miles in any given location. Okay? And then in the yellow, that's a 15% chance. But this entire black outline region, that's a hatch risk of weather. So in this case, at day 3, all we know is there's a 10% chance of significant severe weather within 25 miles in a given location, including the entire red area and just about all the central and southern half of the yellow area. Okay, what is this going to be driven off of? I can tell you it's definitely going to be large hail, and you are probably going to get either a 10 to a 15% chance of tornadoes. Once you start to get to 15, and you're really getting up there at that point. So yeah, it's big tornado day. I do think is going to be here for Saturday. And then we look at Sunday, still at day 4. So we just know level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, and we would probably get an enhanced risk out of this day too. But so Sunday it's not over, still severe weather risk here. And we'll wrap this video up by saying this. We look at the ingredients. Of course, we're not in range of the short range model guidance. What I want you to watch here is this is dew points for Friday afternoon. I know you're thinking, well, we're talking about Saturday now, but what I want you to watch here, and let's make sure this is working. Cold front kind of moves in very weak, stabilizes the atmosphere, brings some dry air into central Texas, right? You kind of keep this moist air through Arkansas, Louisiana, eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma. But watch how this kind of reinforces itself Friday night into Saturday morning. And this deep moisture field, moist sector really builds in Saturday morning. I mean, you got dew points getting close to 70 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then we start to get to the prime heating of the day, Saturday, midday, early afternoon. Look at this massive moist sector. Dew points deep into the 60s. Not barely touching the 60s, but mid to upper 60s all the way up, here into Missouri, even the Midwest. You got dew points in the 70s along the Texas and Louisiana coastline. Plenty of moisture in the atmosphere, guys. And then you get into Sunday too, which this will be a little bit positioned a little bit further east, and it's the same thing, guys. I mean, this cold front sags and kind of stabilizes the atmosphere a little bit more, but you still got deep moisture. Not as deep, not as broad, but you still got deep moisture into Sunday. And I know I'm kind of cutting off you folks to the north, but, we're able to zoom into all these regions as we get a little bit closer. And then you see that we got some high Cape levels too associated with that higher dew points. I mean, Cape levels are like rocket fuel out there. Next thing you look at is this mid-level jet, and this is the exit region of this mid-level jet. Okay, we start to get into like Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and this mid-level jet is a little bit displaced, but I don't think the low-level jet will be. But I mean, right here, the exit region, right here, basically where this is kind of the lifting area right here, right where you go from the most increased wind fields in the mid-levels to not as increased. So in this area, you got this 30, 40, 45 knot mid-level jet crossing right over this huge moist sector, entering this area. So you're probably going to get the initiation of some supercells in this area right into here. Now, I will mention for Saturday, and they talk about this in the Storm Prediction Center, the main thing that could stop this is morning convection Saturday morning. So we just got to watch what short-range model guidance shows. But, as we get into Sunday, there it is, we get this, and this extends all the way into the Midwest. I know I'm not showing you guys. I promise I will. But just running out of time here. We get into Sunday afternoon. You get this 50, 60, 65 knot mid-level jet riding right over this moist sector, overlapping ingredients, plenty of lift in the atmosphere, plenty of wind energy, low-level shear. We're going to have a severe weather threat for Sunday too. Could be significant also. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. That's a mouthful. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you again soon.